Hello. Hi. Apparently Gina knows everybody. My name is Julie Gordon. I'm the events manager here at RJ Julie Booksellers, and we are thrilled to have you guys here. And of course, we're thrilled to have Helen and Gina as well to celebrate Helen's new book. Helen Ellis is the author of multiple works, including Bring Your Baggage, Don't Pack Light, and Southern Lady Code. And she is here to celebrate her newest novel, Kiss Me in the Coral Lounge, a collection of essays about love, marriage, and the secrets to staying in love. As described by best-selling author Anna Napolitano, Ellis is one of our greatest living humorists in the same league as Sedaris and Irby, a fascinating portrait of middle-aged love. I think this review speaks for itself. Joining her this evening is Connecticut's own Gina Barreca. Deemed a feminist humor maven and hailed as smart and funny, Gina's next book, Fast Fallen Women, will be published in September. So keep your eyes peeled for that and keep your eyes on our calendar. Without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Helen, who I think has a activity for you guys.
I have a favorite. All right, I'm going to count to 3. And it's called Kiss Me in the Coral Lounge. So does anybody remember Doris Day? No, Dinah Shore. I want you to give me your biggest. Mwah. I'm going to count to 3 and you're all going to go, what are you going to do? Mwah. And you're going to yell it. Okay. All right, there we go. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. You can all go now. Great thing. You can announce to every audience. Oh, that's terrific. All right, I'm going to start. Obviously, this woman is one of the few people who can make me seem laconic. For those of you who know me, which are a lot of people here, thank you for being here. I'm so honored. And so honored to be sharing, the stage with Helen, because she really is funny. And you know that I don't say that unless I mean it, because if you know me, you know my work, you know I take funny very seriously. That it matters. Humor can touch subjects that nobody else can go near. Humor can break taboos. Humor can do what Helen does in the essays here, all of which are astonishingly readable in the best way, in that you can take them in and then you go back and then you look for the great lines and then you go back and you see the wisdom. And that's what humor does, because humor, it sort of gives you an embrace, it sort of gives you an air kiss, and then you end up sort of hugging it. And then when you go in for that real hug, you can sometimes end up crying on its shoulder, right? Because these essays deal with life and death and Viagra. And we weren't sure when we were talking about what would be, she said, you know the audience better than I do. And I was like, I'm not sure about the Viagra. I don't want them to think it's a pop-up book. It's not that. That would sort of make it. The essay itself is absolutely wonderful. She does use the word lightsaber in it, and I'll let you figure out the way in which it's used. But the essays really are. Which one did you decide to read? We're going to do cats. We're going to do cats. There's a great essay on the kind of notes you leave to people when you ask them to look after something for you. And it is about how we look after other people, how we need other people to look after us. I'm just gonna, again, you heard all the wonderful things. You look at which issue of the New Yorker was it? Oh, just last week. Yes, Shouts and Murmurs last week.
Okay, last week's New Yorker, it includes an excerpt from the book on a marriage contract. And so they picked it up. So that is, like I said, that's sitting at the big girls table, right? And that's not only saying the big girls table, which also I discovered, can I say this? That Helen is going, she is a world-class poker player and is going to play in Las Vegas for 10 days. At least. So when we talk about lucky and skill and confidence and daring and putting on, I would imagine, a good bluff,
This is my poker face.
that this is, yeah. it's like-
Not swimmer's face.
Yeah, right, you should see what she looks like when she was mad, but it's really, I mean, that's an amazing set of skills. And she brings that same style and skill and ability to the page. So that some of the ones that really affected me deeply, one is there are a number of them. One is obituary of a first kiss. And it's when somebody sends Helen the obituary of the guy who was her first kiss. And it sort of ties together that sense, and there's much of the sense of early youth and how there's a great scene about a slumber party. And slumber parties are important. I'll tell one of my small slumber party stories and then ask Helen to talk about hers. But that slumber parties are important in the lives of young girls, right? I'm not sure what they were in the lives of young boys. Maybe some of them, that might be a different event. Talked about, and I know some people here have very good stories about them, but that in the one about a slumber party, you talk about how it affected you. So again, it's a word that is often used for, especially for women, humor is breezy. It brings you back to that early youth, as does the essay about the kiss. But then it has this other resonance, this other echo, this other sense of deepness when you go back and read it. The slumber party piece explains why Helen locks her door at night.
Bedroom door.
Bedroom door. I do the same thing. Right? It's not to keep anybody out. Right? I mean, it's the little push the button on the door. And again, my husband was from New Jersey. You can tell. I said to Helen, I'm originally from New York, and basically she said, like, yeah, I couldn't stand it. Once again, 30 years after living in Connecticut, no one has said, Dr. Barreca, what part of Connecticut are you from? That's not a phrase that happens too often. So my husband's from New Jersey, I'm from New York. He's like, what are you kidding? We got 117 windows here. Anybody who wants to come into the house is here in the house. And I'm pushing the button on the bedroom door because I cannot sleep without that button push.
Yeah.
It never occurred to me in all my essay writing and looking at women's lives to write about that.
You didn't write that one?
And look, it's also a beautiful magic.
Do you want cats? Do you want
the cat? But the slumber party was again about the way that the things that affect you deeply as a child, for lots of different reasons, for both the good parts and the bad parts, but we'll come back later. And that's what so many of these essays do. They're funny, they're nice, but when you read them again, that's when the resonance comes through. So the obituary of a first kiss had it.
Yes.
I just read the end of it
Read
because
to me.
she is, yes,
I love it. I love it.
But so finding out that the young man who had been her first kiss, she's talking about it with her husband, which is what one does, right? One goes on and on about such things. Which is why people come out. It's like you get to listen to, if you're here with a spouse, it's usually so that you could just listen to somebody else, talk. It's like, I don't care who it is, we're going out tonight, I will listen to somebody else, for an hour. It doesn't matter if they're good, that's why people like podcasts. I just want to hear somebody else talk for an hour, as opposed to you. But so they were wonderful. There's lots of stuff about kisses actually through the book and real love throughout the book. But Helen writes, my husband had kissed me tens of thousands of times in our apartment, in our bedroom, our kitchen, our living room, and the choral lounge. There's this one area of the house where the cat box is, and there are lots of things that go on in the choral lounge. And these kisses add up. We have accumulated kisses. And it's such a wonderful idea. We have accumulated kisses. When times get rough, we have kisses to fall back on. For 28 years, we've kissed each other only. I asked him, can you believe our first kiss is our last first kiss? That is until one of us dies or commits adultery. My husband assured me it's our last first kiss. Oh, I kissed him for that. Right? I mean, this is like the kind of thing, again, when you ask the person that's been your partner and you say, honey, what are you thinking? And if you're a woman married to a man, the guy's actually thinking, should I finish this bag of Doritos? Right? That's what he's thinking. But the only correct answer to the line, honey, what are you thinking, is I am thinking of how lonely and bereft I would have been. And I'm going to give that talk about relationships, and there are usually guys in the back yelling out, how do you spell bereft? On their hands. But there's a real sense of intimacy in these essays that does put Helen in the category of important humor writers. Dorothy Parker said that humor is more than just wisecrack, right? And this is more than just wisecrack. It's not just a series of funny lines. They're the best of American essays that, again, make you look at something from a different perspective. So if you would read the cat one, and then I know there are lots of people here I could call on by name, but I know that they're coming with questions, and we'll have a lot to talk about, and I know they want to hear about your process of writing and all the rest of it.
Okay,
So, there you go.
all right, I'm gonna read an email to our cat sitter. Hello, and welcome to New York. Thank you for apartment sitting and taking care of our cats. All you really have to do is keep them alive and never open the windows from the bottom because the cats might jump out. The rest of this is finer points. Enjoy yourself. Once you're inside the apartment, go to the kitchen and open the cabinet to the left of the fridge. There are cat bowls and cans of cat food in the top drawer. There are also wet pouches, which are meat and gravy in Capri Sun looking bags that you have to wring out like your bathing suit. Give each boy a can or a wet pouch and a fresh dish. If they eat out of the dirty dish, the orange one will get chin acne and the old one will barf. If you hear the old one barfing, please direct him off the rugs and onto the hardwood or tile floors. Barf will be easier to clean up. Only barfs like once a week. And sometimes he barfs because he's been waiting for you to feed him and then eats too quickly. So don't make him wait. Honestly, when this old cat asks for food, give it to him. I don't care if you fed him 5 minutes ago and he ate one bite. If he only ate one bite, he wants the canned pouch that you didn't give him. So switch it out. We are not concerned about putting a 17-year-old cat on a diet. We are only concerned with keeping him happy. If he is not happy, he will let you know by pooping in the tub. Asking for food includes meowing at the top of his lungs from the kitchen counter or staring at you from the coffee table like he's trying to suck out your soul. Sometimes we feed him on the coffee table because he likes to be part of things. And sometimes he won't eat unless you keep him company by sitting on the kitchen floor and petting him and singing him a song. I made up a song, but you can sing anything. It's just a good boy, and the cat eats just fine. When you eat, the old cat will want to eat what you're eating. So use the squirt bottle to squirt him away until you've finished your meal. The squirt bottle was brought to spritz the plants, but now we spritz the plants in the shower because just the sound of the squirt bottle will set the old cat off like a firecracker. He may also go berserk at the sound of a sneeze. So far, it's just my husband sneezes that he reacts to. If I sneeze, he doesn't flinch. But if my husband sneezes, the old cat charges him, climbs him like a tree, and swats him across the face. My husband assures me it doesn't hurt. It's just tickling. So if you feel a sneeze coming on, do yourself a favor and step into the closet. Finish a meal, please put your leftovers on the coffee table. Even if there's just a backup sauce on your dish, please give it to the old cat because he likes to lift the essence. The only thing he can't eat is spaghetti, choking hazard, and spicy. Don't ask. The orange cat couldn't care less what you're eating. He keeps to himself until about 9 at night when he's ready for his dry food. The orange cat is a genius and extremely well-mannered. If you see him sitting quietly by an empty bowl in the TV room, aka the Coral Lounge, this means he's ready for his late night snack. There is a 7-pound bag of dry food labeled indoor adult right out in the open in the Coral Lounge. Some people have asked if it's modern art, like one of those Andy Warhol Brillo boxes, but it really is just a humongous bag of cat food laid out because, as my husband says, it's just easier that way. The same sentiment applies to the 14 bag of cat litter labeled clumping unscented that we leave right out in the open next to the litter box in our bathroom, like some people don't think twice about leaving their plunger out. You will know when the old cat has pooped because he poops and runs. If he is running from room to room like a cartoon bullet bouncing off the walls and you didn't spritz the squirt bottle or sneeze, he just pooped. There are special green bags to scoop the poop, but if he didn't bury it, feel free to toilet paper and flush it down the toilet. Please praise the old cat when he doesn't have diarrhea. I made up another song for this. You can sing anything. My husband just says, "Nice job," and the old cat is very proud of himself. If you want to air out the bathroom, please remember to crack the window from the top, not the bottom, because there is also a 3-wick salted grapefruit candle that is guaranteed to kill the odor. If the old cat pees in the tub, I run the hot water to wash it down the drain and at the same time douse it with a 30-ounce bottle of Gina. There is a reason Revlon still makes this. It is a miracle worker. But you can use anything. The orange cat is so considerate, I swear he poops potpourri. I know that some people are of the mind of if it's yellow, let it mellow, but this is not such a household. The cats drink out of the toilets, so please flush them every time you use them and leave the lids up. If you sit on a wet seat, the seat is wet from the cat's feet because they submerge the paws in the water and then traipse around the seat, go back again. If you happen to pop one of their deep dives, a cat butt sticking out of the toilet, back away slowly. You don't want to startle them. Trust me, you don't. The cats do have a proper water bowl, so even though this sounds ridiculous, please change the water in it twice a day. You will never see them drink out of it, but they must be doing it because the water level goes down. I mean, if it's not the cats, what is it? It's not mice or rats, I promise. We haven't seen one of those in the apartment for years. We got the cats to get rid of the mice and the lone rat. The orange one did all the work. The old one helped by glowering under the dark space under the oven for hours. The cats will probably be hiding when you arrive. So when you enter the bedroom, don't be alarmed by the 2 lumps under the comforter. Go ahead and say hello. Let them hear your voice. Pat the lumps. Lift up the comforter and let them see your face. They might dart out and go under the bed, but whatever the case, don't worry. They never scratch or bite. Just leave them be and settle in. The cats are allowed to sit anywhere, but each have their own territories. Neutral territories are the bed and the 2-story scratch tower in the Coral Lounge. Otherwise, the old cat likes to teeter on the edges of sofas or cook by lying before the radiator with his paws slipped underneath. The orange cat only sits on the royal blue velvet swivel chairs, like the prince that he is. If you don't see him sitting there, you will know he has been there because there is a mist of orange fur. To clean the fur, there is a teeth tartar yellow rubber brick that we drag across the velvet like a tongue scraper. But you can clean it with anything. We have lint rollers and upright vacuum, 5 attachments. Like I mentioned, the orange one keeps to himself. So if he disappears, as long as you haven't opened the window from the bottom, don't freak out. I promise you that this cat has not gone off to find a corner to die. There is no way he'll die before the old one. The cats are very loving, and I'm sure you will enjoy them as much as we do. The old one likes to be kissed on the head. The orange one likes a little roughhousing. The old one likes to be held like a baby, over your shoulder, or rocked in your arms. The orange one likes to be carried face forward like a ventriloquist doll. If you give the orange one extra attention, the old one will sense it from whatever room he is in and come into where you are and stare at you until you are done doing what you are doing with the orange one and give him attention. With any 100-year-old building, this apartment has its quirks, meaning there are many things that will make you think our apartment is haunted. It is not haunted. The floors creak and the radiators play because that's what floors and radiators do. There are hot spots on the wall because pipes are behind them. We have a lot of portrait paintings, but the eyes are not following you. If the lights go out, you've blown a fuse. You can only have 3 things turned on in a room at once. The fuse box is in the stairwell. If you meet a woman in the stairwell, do not engage with her. This woman looks like a ghost, but is not a ghost. She is one of 3 neighbor ladies. Neighbor lady number 1 is a widow and an opera singer who practices 2 hours every day whenever the mood strikes her. So when you hear ear-piercing screeching, rest assured it's just this lady doing her scales. Neighbor lady number 2 is a spinster and plays the piano every day whenever the mood strikes her. So when you hear what sounds like the single note soundtrack to Eyes Wide Shut, it's just this lady staying mentally sharp. Neighbor lady number 3 is, we're guessing, on her way to divorce and likes her candles. Her scent of choice is not scented grapefruit. So please don't fear that a hellmouth has opened up when you smell what we're guessing Yankee Candle Company will call Satan's hooves. Help yourself to anything in the kitchen. The guest towels are on the rack. Don't forget about not opening the windows from the bottom so the cats won't jump out. Text me with any questions. Thank you, thank you. We'll be back in 2 days.
Satan's food. I mean, like, I thought that was absolutely brilliant, and we'll be back in 2 days. Which is longer than it takes to read. It really, so tell us about how this fits into the rest of your writing, how you came up with these. A lot of them seem to have been written during the pandemic. They discussed the pandemic and the way New York changed, and people saying that there are references, not all of which are flattering to Connecticut, and people who fled to second homes herein. And that a wonderful line that you use is somebody who said that she's not coming back to New York until New Yorkers can stop eating in the gutter. They lived all the restaurants.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a real New Yorker line. I'm not coming back till we stop eating in the gutter.
Eating in the gutter.
Yeah, but that was just, again, those wonderful, almost overheard lines that people, catching the line and making sure that you grab it. But so were you writing these with an idea towards making the whole book? Were you writing them individually? How did you conceive of the work? Did you do it as one piece or did you do it as a whole series?
I conceived, nice word, of it, probably a few months into the pandemic. Some people made banana bread. Some people got into like multi-level marketing schemes. And my husband got a prescription to Viagra. I had to tell everyone about it. We're not talking about this every day. And so I thought every time I write something that's nonfiction, it starts with me wanting to brag about a certain situation, like, oh, I have to tell you about this friend of mine who had a baby at 50 years old on her own, or, oh, I have to tell you about a friend of mine who beat breast cancer. Oh, I have to tell you about how my father, for my 13th birthday, faked his own death. It's always just, let me tell you. So I had to tell everybody about and I thought, why not get paid for that? And my husband, everybody has their price, and Doubleday named my husband's price for me to write about this penis. And it started there. And I had written two essay collections prior to this, Southern Lady Coat and Bring Your Baggage. So they knew, how I worked, and they knew I could hit a deadline. And I just pitched it to them. I said, I want to write about my marriage. We've been married more than 2 decades, together almost 3 decades. It's a lot of material. And we were, I hate to use the word trapped, but that was a word we were all using because we were locked down with whoever was in the house. And it was me and these 2 cats and my husband for months and months. And he was working from home and I was working from home. And I came to this really terrific realization that I enjoyed his company even more than I did before. And I just wanted to write about all these intimate things that all of you, I'm sure, have experienced, in a marriage or even not in a marriage. And I just started going at it. Some things I didn't know I was going to write about. I knew I was going to write about the Viagra. I knew I was going to write about snoring. I knew I was going to write about.
I'm going to say there is an essay called My Husband Snores and Yours Will Too. And it's very, very funny. And it does, you capture in a way that I'm always trying to help the students that I've worked with. You get the noises. And it's hard in terms of writing humor to get a noise onto the page and get the timing of a noise onto the page. And it's hard to write a good essay about snoring that doesn't sound like you're complaining.
Right.
Okay. Where it's not just that she's going on about her snoring again. And this is a genuinely funny essay about snoring. And some of the best moments in the book, and there are many of them, are the capturing of that thing that you go, of course, that's exactly what that sounds like. This is what the experience is. And again, within the descriptions of intimacy, one of the wonderful things is that the snoring essay, or that might be difficult, but that ends with the 2 of you when you both had different sort of manifestations of COVID.
Yeah, that's a snoring.
You had the fever and he had the cough,
Yeah.
and they slept in separate rooms during this, and that they had to admit to each other that they slept better.
Yeah.
So that the fantasy was oh,
So dirty.
could we sleep in separate rooms? And this is not the Viagra story. And so it's different kinds of intimacy, because that intimacy might mean I don't have to sleep next to you. And I like the idea when you said that we all have different ways of dealing with somebody snoring, like you make a pillow for it. And I thought, oh my God, that's what I have done. So we gave in, again, I'm older than you, we have different generations here, but there is a point at which you either get, decide to do the separate rooms, or you get a sleep number bed. And to really having 2 beds next to each other, which you can get rid of the foot.
And I think, my grandparents, I thought my grandparents had the most fabulous lifestyle. They had separate bedrooms. My grandmother, these are Alabamians, my grandmother had a powder blue satin bedroom, everything, like carpet powder blue, the bedspread, the neck gully in the satin pillow to keep her permanent, from touching the bed, Sydney Sheldon by the bed, the big princess phone. I just thought it was so glamorous. And then my granddaddy across the hall, everything was, hunter green, and there was a police scanner and a pack of cigarettes. But I thought that was so.
But that's like marriage.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like dating.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll turn on the police scanner and you take out the air. There's a little bit of a give and take here.
And there's a piece in there about I became obsessed with stickers.
And I
Like vintage
I gave her a sticker, and mine isn't vintage, but I did give it a favorite stickers.
But it started with, I was using stickers, and I started years ago. I started to give my husband a gold star in my diary if we had some. So I would give him a gold star, like, thank you very much. You deserve it. And here's a gold star. And so, it's intimate things like that where I'll say to them, would you like to put a gold star in? Would you like to have a gold star tonight? So it's intimacy is
Hilarious.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. It's
Yeah.
basically what
Yeah.
intimacy is.
yeah.
And now here's a question that again, when I write about my relationship, my husband, who shall not be named, who many of you know, Michael, when I read about Michael, that people was like, does Michael know you're writing about him? And most of the time, it's like, he doesn't care.
I
Now,
cares.
your cares. Okay, do you have to run things by him first, or
I
do you
will tell you.
choose?
With Annie Knox's the third collection of essays, and essays sound so snooty. They're just funny
No, we like
stories.
essays. We like
Oh,
essays.
I forgot essays. Yes. Anyway, but if you appear in a story, well before it even goes to print, year before it goes to print, I will give you that story. I will say, this whole story is about how you went and got illegal Botox, or this, you appear for 2 sentences in this story where you give our friend a Heimlich maneuver because she's choking to death in a marshmallow stuffing contest.
That's one of the essays.
And I'll get to it, I'll say, first of all, let me know if I got it right. Second of all, let me know if you want me to use your name. And third, if you don't, I'll change your name. And third, let me know if you don't want me to publish it. Because if you don't want me to publish it, I won't publish it. There's plenty of things to write about. I'm 52 years old. I can think of something new like this. But nobody's ever said don't, because I really have this nonfiction mantra of be funny, be honest, be kind. That's how I'm going to write about you. That's how I'm going to write about myself. And with that, I don't seem to go wrong.
Although I will,
Yeah.
having read carefully,
Yes.
there is a whole section on holding grudges.
Yes.
That, as a Sicilian, I was very grateful for. I wrote a book on revenge.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt a particular investment in this.
Yeah.
But did you like a friend who offered to hold a grudge for you?
Yeah.
Without really knowing
Yes.
why?
They say, holding your grudge is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. But holding a grudge for a friend. You may forget why we don't like the person, but I don't you why we don't like that.
I thought that again, it was wonderful because it really was like this, what people do for each other. It's like, we don't like her. Why don't we like
That's
her?
right.
And your deal is that if you can't remember more than 2
Yeah.
reasons, then it's gone, then the grudge is gone.
Yeah.
But if you can remember all 3, then, one person's grudge, one person made you promise that if people you tell.
Oh, well, one person made me promise that if which one, I think it was if her husband dies.
Yes.
If her husband dies. Like I have said to
Before
my
she does.
yes, I have said to my husband, if I go for it, get yourself a young blonde, whatever you want. Yeah, you're a hard act to follow, I can do it. But my friend says, every day you must remind him of me, every day you must text him pictures of me, you know, every day he needs, you know, he needs to suffer. I have made this promise to her.
The phrase was, if I remember, I may have heard this more recently than you, he must never have fun.
That's right.
And I think that behind that, he must never have fun. Yeah, that's, I mean, that's sort of like, if you get that in writing, you must, I promise will never have fun.
Like if I meet you, if you think if you're meeting me for the first time, and I say to you, oh, I know who you are, that means you are dead to me.
Exactly. I know who you are.
Right.
That's. So I know who you are. It's all about the emphasis. It's all about the emphasis. So,
They're telling us that we have to take questions from the audience.
yes, I know.
Sit here all day.
Yes, questions from the audience.
If you have any, of course, there's the cooker.
Yes.
Yeah.
How did you learn how to write humor?
Wow. I think I really write like I talk, you know, and it's interesting, I write fiction and I write nonfiction. So I wrote a short story collection called American Housewife. And when it comes to a short story, I'm answering a question. So the question would be, what if a writer went on Dancing with the Stars? Or what if a book club had a more sinister reason for meeting? Or what if it was a witness protection program for toddler and tiaras who wanted to get out of the business? You know, I ask the question and then I answer it. But when it comes to these essays, I will tell a story over and over and over again. And I write the essay to figure out why am I telling this story over and over again. And, you know, we talk about the snoring piece. Everybody is talking about how their husband snores. Why are we talking about it? And it really turns out because you're talking about your marriage. And there's a piece called The Best Part of a Wedding is the Worst Part of a Wedding. Because anytime you go to a wedding, all anybody wants to know is what went wrong. You know, and it turned out that I was telling the story of my sister's wedding where my mother tripped in a Cracker Barrel parking lot one day before the wedding and knocked out her front teeth. Well, that is the worst thing that happened at the wedding. But how you deal with, you know, such a situation at the wedding really predicts how you will deal with situations in your marriage. So it's when I tell a story over and over again, like I talk about Mama's teeth getting knocked out and they all laugh. And you think, you know, I keep telling it because I keep getting a reaction. So I sort of test it out, just in regular conversation. And then I put it on the page.
And I think that would also, a lot of you are writers, right? And a lot of us out here who are love reading or ourselves emerging writers, that what humor allows us to do is take that worst story,
Yes.
to take that worst incident and get our deposit back on it by transforming it into humor,
Yeah.
by making it into the kind of currency that it becomes a story that we tell as opposed to some terrible thing that happened.
It's how we cope. You know,
Right.
there is a piece in the book about how we talk about planning for death, you know, in our marriages and with my parents. And, you know, I was the official plug puller, you know, for my parents. And it's always joked upon. Now, when Helen Michelle comes to the hospital room, she says to my sister, Elizabeth, just watch her because she's going to start yanking plugs. And you're like, that's how we talk about it all, just to talk about it. And I think that's really alarming for some people, but that's just the way that we are, you know.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
Yeah.
In your fiction, was there ever anything that developed in a way that took you by surprise that you hadn't expected when you set out?
You mean in the essays or just in writing life?
I think in fiction.
In the story, like the characters or a theme that emerged that you hadn't expected?
Let's see. Well, you know, with the fiction, like I say, that's the most surprising to me because I just start with the question. Like there's a piece in American Housewife called Hello, Welcome to Book Club. And it's about this woman. It's just all from one woman's point of view, introducing a new member to the whole club. And I did not know why this woman was being inducted to the club. I was getting to know everybody in the room. And then I began to understand that everybody in the room could not have children for one reason or another. And I discovered that this new inductee was being inducted to be a surrogate for all these women. Like, I had no idea. So it's always things like that. I'm surprised all the time. Because I'm surprised, you'll be surprised, but not anymore.
So you're not an outline.
No, I think, they said there's a plotter and a pantser. And I'm a pantser, meaning I go by the seat of my pants. Yeah.
Other question, Lori.
Hi, that's kind of leading up to what I was gonna ask, if you had a certain process, because it sounds like you have multiple ideas going all at once. And my daughter tells me that Judge Apatow, if he gets an idea, he'll put it on an index card, and then he'll line up all the index cards, and then he'll take the index cards and kind of glom them into a scheme or something like that. So I'm wondering, how do you categorize your ideas?
I will tell you, I have my mantra for the last few books has been different book, different process. Because I started out, I published a novel in 1999. I came straight out of graduate school. I did it a very traditional way. I held down a job. I wrote from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m., 1,500 words a day. I got a 6-figure book deal. It was a huge situation. And then I wrote another novel that way and nobody would publish it. And then I wrote another novel that way and nobody would publish it. And then I wrote a third novel that way. Nobody would publish it. I quit writing for years. I quit writing for like 5 years and nobody cared. And I started writing American Housewife because I had stopped my job with the third book that I couldn't get published. I've been working as a secretary all the time, and my husband said, all right, you spent years on each book. Why don't you stop, working a day job? I'll support you. Let's see what happens. Nobody published it. So for years, I would introduce myself. What do you do? I would say a housewife, because that is what I did. And when you say I'm a writer, the next question is, what have you written? And it had been so long. It had been 15 years. And when you say I'm a housewife, nobody ever asks a second question. And if they do, what they ask is, what do you do all day? And so I started a anonymous Twitter account called What I Do All Day. And I started to tweet, and back in that day, it was, 150 characters. I would just tweet about things in my life. And I started to see patterns emerge. And I would tweet about my book club, and I would tweet about reality television. And once I saw those develop, I started to write stories based on that. And with American Housewife, I was sending those stories out to literary journals. They didn't know who the hell I was. It had been 20 years. They since my novel had been out, and I didn't even say that I had written a novel. And I started to get pulled from the slush. And when I sold American Housewife, the short story collection, it was my foot back in the door. So I wrote the novel in this particular way, 3 others that didn't get published in that particular way. I got my writing life back because of what Twitter used to be, because I had this mantra of, if it's not retweeted, it's deleted. With the retweets, you knew what was landing, what was funny, what was not funny. And then with the nonfiction, again, that just came out of nowhere, where someone said, write about the most embarrassing thing you could think of. And I wrote this piece that wound up in Modern Love about how I became a recovering slob to save my marriage. And my publisher, who had published the short stories, said, can you, do you want to do essays? And I'm like, yes, I've never done it before. Yes, I would love to do it. I can do it. So with that, I did it one at a time. And the same thing went for baggage. And this one I wrote without showing anyone. It was just a very different process. But the process is, I get up every day. I go to a library. I squirrel myself away in the stacks. I like stack 6, where Judith Krantz looks over me. And I write. I sit there minimum 2 hours a day, but when I'm really rolling, I'll be there 8 hours a day. I'll have no idea. The only places in my life where I lose time like that is writing and sitting at a poker table. And it's very meditative. So you have to change the process each time. You have to pick yourself a break. I used to write everything down. I used to do what Judd Apatow did, and I don't do that at all anymore. If it doesn't stay in my head, why would I put it on the page? But I might change my mind tomorrow. So you have to, that my process is to not get stuck in a process.
That's a great answer.
No.
No, that's really, and also, no, but the idea of the flexibility.
Yeah.
Behind that, because again, a lot of writers get into a mindset where it's gotta be this way.
Yeah.
It's gotta be, and in fact, it's whatever works for you, and if
At
it's
that
not
moment.
working, then you have to, I think, change in the way of doing it. It's
Yeah,
just
I had
great.
the thought of, writing a novel again. And it's been so long since it's been over 20 years since I successfully published a novel. And I have a writing workshop that I've had for 28 years, which is made up of Ann Napolitano, who just came out with Hello Beautiful, Oprah's 100th pick, and Hannah Tinty, whose last book was The 12 Lives of Samuel Hawley. And what was the point of me telling you that?
We write for each other.
We write for each other, we read each other's work. And but I was saying to Anne, do you write a novel? I've completely forgotten how you do that. And I watch her do it. I watched her write Hello Beautiful over the course of the pandemic within a year. She takes 8 years to write a book. She wrote that thing in a year, and it was stunning, and it was a different process. And so Anne said to me, just try Scrivener. Do you use Scrivener?
Yeah.
I've never used Scrivener. Does anybody know what that is?
Mhm.
Yeah, I never have. So I'm learning
So it's a
Scrivener.
program.
It's a program, so all I've done so far is I've opened 4 documents. I've written 4 titles. And I've written a description of each novel idea.
And this helps you do that. All I do, I mean, again, that's sent to academics, but with Scrivener, I think a bard will be the Scrivener,
Yeah.
say I prefer not to. And the last thing I want my computer to do, if I open a document, is say, we prefer not to.
You try anything. You just try anything. Yeah. Because
Well, try Scrivener.
it's a compulsion.
Yeah.
Writing is a compulsion.
Yeah, we're certainly not doing it for, well, fame or glory or whatever. We are. To make it funny to play poker.
That's true.
I mean, that's a different.
That's true.
But we're doing it to have relationships with people we
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
that's to have a conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what
You want
tonight
to
is about.
you write to be read. You
Yeah.
write so that you will see. I want you to see yourself on the pages of the true stories.
Yeah.
For sure. Maybe not the novel.
That this is. Okay, a couple more questions.
Yeah.
Please.
AI might be very interesting, thinking about Scrivener,
Yeah.
because all you really do is throw in an idea and say, what is this doing?
I'm scared.
Yeah.
I am AI.
Yeah.
Have you done it?
Have I done it? No, but it just thought it's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
This wasn't the start of the Viagra thing.
I
mean,
know.
it's just really.
Let's see what happens. Yeah. All right, I want to know from this gentleman.
Yeah, so you wrote these 3 novels, they didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
You're at a different place in your life. Have you gone back to them, looked
Yeah.
at them, read them?
No, I'll tell you what they were. I think there's a reason why they weren't published. The first one was about a 1950s housewife who was also a witch and infected her entire neighborhood with herpes. About a serial killing poker player. And the third was about a 19th century Mississippi prostitute with a 20-foot albino alligator in her backyard. What? So I don't know. But no, I have not gone back to look at them because I think to myself, there must be a reason. They must not have been very good. But I will tell you, if it hadn't gone the way that it did, I would never have written nonfiction. I never thought I was going to write nonfiction. And it's such a joy to me. It's so easy for me. And if I hadn't failed so much, I wouldn't be as brave is the right word, but I I have nothing to lose. You know, I've lost, so I have nothing to lose right now. So I'll write about, you know, whatever. And if it doesn't work out, we had a good run. I'm just so happy to be back at the table. I'm so happy to be with you tonight because I know what it was like to write and to avoid. So thank you for coming. I really, really appreciate it.
And so before we all fly, one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
What would you tell your younger self? What would you tell the self who got that third rejection? What did she, not what she could, not
Yeah.
even if she couldn't hear it,
Yeah.
what would you have told?
I would tell her to live your life. I'll always be ambitious, but I was very ambitious as a 20-something-year-old. Anybody who writes, you know, and expects people to read it, that's an ego. And it went so well for me early on. But I had all these rules. I won't get married until I publish a book. I won't have children until I publish a second. Whoopsie. You know, I wouldn't see friends because I needed to get my hours in. You know, everything came second to the writing, everything. And when I failed, it made me so aware of what I was missing out on and how much I valued my marriage, because he just watched me fail over and over again, but still, you know, accepted me and loved me, and he ended up being the subject of you know, live your life because that's where you get the material from.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you both, and thank you all for coming. If you haven't picked up your copy of Kiss Me in the Coral Lounge.
And your
buy it.
friend's copy.
And your friend's copy, and your dad's copy, because Father's Day is coming
The family way.
up. Everyone you know.
Absolutely. And again, books are what keep writers writing. And purchasing books is what keeps writers doing this stuff and what keeps bookstores open and what keeps everything going. So it's the price of what? 5 Hallmark cards.
Yes.
So it's really gotta do
Helen will sign and personalize them like a card, so it's.
Absolutely. And while you're there, you can pick up postcards for my next book, which is coming out. The collection is Fast,
Yes.
Fall and Women. So there are really people, it's a beautiful cover. They're coming to pick up. They said do pre-orders.
Yes.
You live and die
for the
on
love
pre-orders.
language.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a love language.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we'll be up front. Thank you.
Thank you.